Remakes are everywhere, be it video games, movies, TV shows, even the rare manga or music redo. There's always going to be a market for the remake. It's something that makes sense. One of my favorite films is a remake, John Carpenter's The Thing. Video games are kind of in the same realm. When a title's a classic, you want it to have new shiny versions for people to play. It's just, not as easy as flipping a switch and calling it a day. While straight up ports and remasters aren't uncommon, sometimes those older design choices aren't so accessible for a modern audience. The rewind features in old NES compilations exist for a reason. Remakes have been in gaming for a while now, with some of the earliest DOS and 8-bit console releases getting newer, shinier versions, like when Nintendo remade multiple Marios on the Super Nintendo, but it's really picked up steam over the last few years. Nostalgia is a wild thing, and you'll see people popping off remakes on games that are still to this day totally fine. Sometimes they'll do a revamp of all the mechanics to make them modern with Resident Evil 2, other times they'll put a nice shiny coat on what's already a great release with Halo 2 or Spyro Reignited trilogy. Then there's whatever Warcraft 3 did. But the thing I'm interested in are games that haven't gotten a remake, maybe not even a port. Stuff that failed to make a splash when it originally released. A remake is a perfect opportunity to try and reinvent what didn't work the first time, especially if there was a lot of heart in the original. Like, I probably spend way too much time thinking what if when it comes to Anthem, Aliens Colonial Marines, or Final Fantasy 15. 3 titles that had a lot going for them, but ultimately disappointed. Should Balan Wonderworld get a remake after Yuji Naka's punished jail time arc is over?
Maybe.
So yo, it's Austin, and today we're going to be jumping from the highest diving board and unfortunately landing flat on our stomachs, because today it's time to talk about some disappointing video games. Ones that I think deserve a remake. These can go one of two ways. You've got a resell and a redo. A resell remake is something like The Last of Us Part 1, where there's really no reason to do this other than to resell it to the fans and new people who might be interested in playing it. But the redo is more interesting. Let's say something might have been lackluster in the past or just kind of feels dated these days. A redo is an opportunity to take that and bring it to a modern audience, even if it originally kind of sucked. And that is why we got games like Live Alive Remake and Metroid Samus Returns. Or there's the other way around with GoldenEye 007 for the Wii. Every few months I forget this exists, and I'll probably forget again. We've got a lot to talk about today. It's gonna be a marathon for sure, but hold that thought. Today's video has been sponsored by Pocket Champs, my little racing buddies. Pocket Champs is the free-to-play mobile racing game that I've been waiting for forever. You get a champ, you train him, you put him in a race and watch him go on the go. These cute little buddies participate in running, swimming, and climbing, and it's up to you to give them what they need to succeed. Then kick back, enjoy the races, root for your guy, and reap the rewards. Pocket Champs has you playing coach for your champ, and you'll be utilizing strategy in order to find what races are best suited for them to do with world analysis and gadget selection. The more you train them, the more their potential gets unlocked, and at the end of the day, they'll get the job done. I've been training my guy, Lil Eruption, to swim better than everyone else, and what do you know? He did the thing. Let's go. Pocket Champs is the type of mobile game that I think a lot of us have been waiting to play for a good long while, and they made the experience really simple and streamlined. There's lots of variety in the courses, tons of rewards to equip and claim, frequent updates with new content, and of course, lots of skins. Today, Pocket Champs has partnered with me to bring y'all my current favorite skin, the White Wolf. Look at him. He's so cute. If you download the game by clicking the link in the description, the White Wolf skin will be automatically added to your account on June 9th. And you only have till June 8th to do this, so make sure to click the link in the description today. Thanks to Pocket Champs for sponsoring today's video. But for now, it's time to move on to remakes, or at least ones that I want. There's a lot of places and time we could start with this, and y'all know that these are usually like a stream of consciousness anyway, but I figured that we'd go all the way back, like retro. Let's go retro games. And no, not PS3 retro, I'm talking about 8 and 16-bit golden oldies. The NES, Super Nintendo, and Sega Genesis are home to all sorts of classics, a lot of which actually have been remade at this point, and then you have something like Comix Zone. Never heard of it? Strap in. Oh, Comix Zone. I remember seeing this thing all over magazines and rental stores and being totally blown away by it. Comix Zone had something a lot of titles didn't have back in the day, and it was style. The sprite work was clean. The level design was one of the most unique I'd ever seen. Comix Zone has you playing the role of Sketch Turner, a stereotypical geeky and grunge-loving Gen Xer who gets isekai'd into his own comic book. From there, you team up with General Elisa Cyan, who you drew to then try and save the world. This whole thing is massive maximum power fantasy, but it was so stylish in its presentation that you didn't really care. Plus, I would have been 5. I just wanted to eat Cinnamon Toast Crunch and punch weird looking monsters like any normal 5-year-old. The levels are quite literally the pages of a comic book. Panels, paper, and all. You choose your own adventure through the levels, bust through the white spaces, and sometimes tear the art out in order to make your way to the end. It was even developed by the short-lived but fantastic Sega Technical Institute, the cross-country studio responsible for Sonic 2, 3, Knuckles, and other important Genesis hits. It's got a unique hard rock and soundtrack. The art was done by Jonah Hex co-creator Tony DeZuniga. All the pieces are in place for a super awesome game that'll definitely become a massive hit for Sega, lasting multiple generations. But there was one major flaw. Comix Zone is hard. Not just a little hard, like totally unfair. I've never met someone who could get past the 3rd level kind of difficult. Everything, and I mean everything, wants Sketch to die. Not just enemies who one-frame block and counter you, but normal obstacles. If you need to punch a box, you take damage. Are you using a super ability? Take damage. Are you being blocked by an enemy? Take damage. Instant deaths, trap rooms, ridiculous amounts of spongy enemies, it's got it all. Apparently, at some point during development, the testers in charge of Comix Zone recommended the increase in difficulty as it wasn't very long, but boy, that was a mistake. Thankfully, I can cheat, and I do. But even so, defeating normal enemies, even with invulnerability, takes forever to land a hit. Like, come on, they just block things like playing a fighting game on hard. Then when you get to the final boss, if you're not fast enough, which is really fast, the girl dies and you get a sad ending that basically says, you tried your best, idiot. No, I want the real ending where my drawing comes to life. We get married, and then my rat gets a lot of cheese. Comix Zone is hard enough, but whew, did they go overkill. This was disappointing for me as a kid, even more so as an adult, but I think it's something that Sega could whip out a remake for and totally blow everyone away. The comic book aesthetic was at its peak in the 90s, so we're a bit beyond that, but they could definitely do some really neat stuff with a remake. You know what? Let's do a crossover here. Do it with Gerard Way. Have him be the main character and write the story. He'd be like a way cooler version of Sketch Turner. You can even reshoot that weird commercial. Just tone down the difficulty a bit.
We will live another day.
Comix Zone, only for Sega Genesis.
Speaking of extremely difficult games that could use another shot, ActRaiser 2. You could honestly pick any number of these 8 and 16-bit retro hard titles from back in the day, but only ActRaiser 2 is a total failure of a sequel. Enix's original ActRaiser is a hybrid platformer and city builder. It's one of the most unique titles on the Super Nintendo, one of my favorites, and something that's rarely been replicated to this day. You play as the Master, aka God, who's going down and saving the planet by getting rid of the evil and rebuilding civilization. Spread the good word, little angel man. ActRaiser was hard, but fair and rewarding. It's a great time for an early Super Nintendo title. Seriously, this thing came out around launch. The original was given a remake in 2021, one that looks like a weird Sega Saturn game in motion. I kinda love it, but that's not ActRaiser 2. ActRaiser 2 had the same developer, the same publisher, the same world even, but they decided to rip all the city building elements out and turn it into ghosts and goblins. It's not inherently bad, but I think Enix and Quintet completely missed the reason the original worked so well. You wanted to see your progress over time, serve the people of your land, and watch it all grow. But instead, this one's just like, hey, go here, fight the thing, good job, keep moving. At least there's a few scrimblows. I think they could have really expanded on the city building elements to further not God's progress in the world, perhaps even making this a cross-planet religious conquest, but instead it feels like they just wanted to make a hard and punishing platformer. Like, even on easy, I couldn't beat a single level in an hour of playing. I'm not even that bad at games. ActRaiser 2 is just a mother. Turns out this happened because Enix of America was in charge and told Quintet that this was what they needed to be successful. It's a shame. I want to see more ActRaiser, and I think a proper ActRaiser 2 could be real neat. Comix Zone and ActRaiser 2 are just some of any number of games that fit this criteria. They're both fantastic original concepts that ultimately disappointed. A lot of that is because what was seen as good game design back then is now seen as archaic, which you don't really see in any other mediums. People aren't sitting around listening to Nirvana's Nevermind and thinking, wow, this sure was designed with rental stores in mind. At least I don't think so. Speaking of JRPGs, back in the day, you knew you were getting your money's worth when you bought a JRPG. You'd plop that baddie in the Super Nintendo or PlayStation 1 and know you had yourself like 30 to 100 hours of raw video game to be played. As a kid, you'd tell me Dragon Quest VII's 200 hours long, and I'd make a presentation to my parents as to why this is the most economical purchase they can make for me. At the same time, I think Persona 1 and 2 need a remake. like a real one. Atlus's Shin Megami Tensei series and spin-offs have historically done this thing where, regardless of story quality, the gameplay's improved vastly with each entry. When Persona 5 Royale came out, it made Persona 4 look old, which made Persona 3 look retro, which has made Persona 1 and 2 Eternal Punishment Innocent Sin look vintage. So here's the thing. My first Persona was 4. I was a late bloomer to the series, which has made going back quite the challenge. On top of that, Persona 2 has this weird thing where the series hasn't fully made its way to the States in one shape. Eternal Punishment and Innocent Sin tell one story, but the only way they've been localized has been by the PlayStation 1 version of Eternal Punishment and the PSP version of Innocent Sin. These are all still totally playable, only really disappointing to me because modern quality of life options in these titles has made them less approachable. I think all 3 of the original Personas, heck, a lot of older SMT titles could really benefit from that modern snappiness you see. Older JRPGs have really benefited from speed up options, and when a lot of these turn-based titles spend a lot of time having you grind out numbers or seeing the same attack animations over and over, expediting that is welcome. Replaying Final Fantasy IX, one of my favorite games of all time, without the 4x battle speed option would be much harder for me these days, and I think that the dark and engaging narratives of the Persona 2s are something that should be experienced. It's also the first in the series with a based by King. You could honestly put any number of older role-playing games here, but Eternal Punishment and Innocent Sin stand out to me due to how far the series has come mechanically. That, and we've never been able to play them legit on one platform. One day, Atlus will remember Persona 2. It seems like a lot of remakes end up becoming reboots or individual games, as it's not very often that like a specific sequel gets its own remake. That was until recently when we started seeing things like Resident Evil 2 Remake or Silent Hill 2. Would I like a new version of the Jill sandwich? Sure. A third time? Why not? Other times, a specific sequel might be a little disappointing and you might want to have another go. By all means, with the way Capcom's doing stuff, we should be getting a Resident Evil 5 remake sometime in the next few years. While that's probably my favorite in the series, just because I love the way co-op works in that game, I think Resident Evil 6 should get the treatment first. 6 was a polarizing game. The action Hollywood blockbuster totally overtook the survival horror elements, and the roots felt more like a generic 7th generation shooter than anything else. It's not terrible, but it could use a fresh take sooner than the boulder punching simulator.
Hurry! Come on! Hurry! Hurry!
Same thing goes for Devil May Cry 2. It may not be too important in the grand scheme of Devil May Cry stories, but if there's one from the series that could use a redo, it's this one. I'd also love to see DICE take another attempt at Mirror's Edge Catalyst. I'd never played this one until recently, but I can immediately see why it was met with a meh reception. The original Mirror's Edge had tightly designed levels with specific paths and shortcuts. When you turn that into an open world, it loses a lot of luster. I found myself completing a mission, going into the minimap, selecting another one, and then following the built-in GPS and red marked objects, rinse repeat forever. I wasn't inclined to explore. Catalyst has speedrun areas, but I feel like this would have worked better if it were actually more like Sonic Frontiers. I never got too far into this one, but man, I'd love to see another proper Mirror's Edge. The first one ruled. Then we've got something like Star Fox, a series that Nintendo doesn't seem to know what to do with. We've got the Super Nintendo original, Star Fox 64, the best one, and then a bunch of bizarre spin-offs as it traded developers with every entry. Nintendo seems to have adopted this weird philosophy where certain franchises don't get any action if they can't think of a unique gimmick for it, which is probably why F-Zero's in the gutter, but I really think Star Fox Zero needs a redo. Star Fox Zero is technically already a remake. It treads a lot of similar ground and level design that 64 had. It's a starting point for the narrative and a bunch of characters. If you look at footage of this thing, it looks and feels like a Star Fox title. It might just have one of, if not the worst control scheme in a game that I've ever played. Nintendo teamed up with Platinum Games for this one, and Shigeru Miyamoto himself was heavily involved as a producer. I'm sure everyone remembers how dire things were for Nintendo in the Wii U days, and when this was revealed, Star Fox was seen as a huge deal. It'd been a hot minute since a brand new on-rail space shooter hit the market. Could this be the savior of the Wii U? Unfortunately, no. Star Fox Zero is a case of one thing ruining everything. By all means, this looks and feels like your normal Star Fox. It's just also a glorified tech demo for the Wii U gamepad. You have to hold the new age Game Gear in your hands and utilize its gyro controls in order to aim the R-Wing, Walker, or Copter's laser beams. It's not like 64 or any other title where you just aim and shoot. You have to watch where you're going on two screens at once. I can't actually swap between displaying the two screens, so you can see how chaotic the gamepad's supposed to look. It's definitely possible to go through a lot of encounters just looking at the TV and moving your wrists, but whenever you lock onto a target, that reticle disappears, so you have to look at the gamepad, which can in turn make you crash. And I kinda hate this. On top of that, all of the fun, classic Star Fox team quips don't come out of the TV, and there's no way to change that. At least I could turn the rumble off, that thing was going nuts. Star Fox Zero is a game that I think could be easily tweaked into being something really neat and memorable, but Nintendo's insistence on gimmicks really dragged it down. Also, the helicopter. It's the worst part of this. If there was ever a Switch remake or port that needed to happen, it was this one. So please let me play this game in a normal manner. Okay, thanks. This is normally where I would play like a fun quip from the game, but that doesn't work in this one, so enjoy silence. Star Fox Zero may not be a sequel or a prequel, but I do think it deserves another try. So how about we kick it up a notch? Let's pull a Disney. Instead of a individual game, what if we remake an entire franchise? I don't think it would be too controversial to say that the entire Drakengard series needs a retry. Drakengard, also known as Dragon Dragoon in Japan, has to be one of the best worst video games I've ever played. It's a great case of narrative doing a carry job of a lifetime. I also think that most Drakengard fans would agree with me. Drakengards 1 through 3 are action RPGs by Square Enix, the predecessors to the much more well-known Nier spin-offs. The idea is fantastic actually. It's what if we combined Dynasty Warriors and a flight combat sim. Couple that with the director brain of Yoko Taro and you've got yourself a totally dark and messed up story that was very unlike what we'd normally see out of Square Enix. The story went places, dark places, the music was grand, but the problem was, well, the developer Kaguya. You know, Bullet Witch, Uzumaki Chronicles, Beatdown Fists of Vengeance. Kaguya wasn't great at the whole game thing. They made 1 and 2, with the third one being done by Access Games of Deadly Premonition fame, which is just an incredible choice to make. 2 is kind of whatever since it's not canon and Yoko Taro wasn't involved, but 3 has a lot of neat gameplay ideas and narrative elements that are directly connected to Nier and Nier Automata. The basic gist of all of this is Drakengard is a total slog to play. The combat feels real bad. It's incredibly slow, the first game has a lot of grinding required, flight combat lacks a lot of precision, and you'll spend a lot of time just running around in circles and hitting the same 5 dudes. Drakengard 2 is like, okay? You're probably good just checking out the Watch Mojo review.
Remember people, there's dragons in this game, but it's called Drakengard.
Drakengard 3 is a PlayStation 4 game that only came out on the PS3. And by that I mean it's one of the worst performing video games I've ever played. The cutscene direction's great, the cinematics are engaging, the characters are extremely memorable. You've got a little dragon friend peeing for some reason. You'll just have to enjoy combat that's got little to no depth, that also dips into the single digits of frame rate. And I'm not joking. It does dip when you're playing as sassy Femcell Zero, but when you hop onto Mikael and do some dragoneering, it all plummets at an unfathomable level. I honestly can't believe this was released, especially in 2013. Thankfully, you can see glimpses of Drakengard 3 being decent if you emulate, but it's still rough around the edges. The entire franchise of Drakengard is disappointing because the video games that surround everything else are super lackluster. The exact same thing happened with the original Nier, which was also developed by Kaguya. An interesting and gripping tale surrounded in less than stellar gameplay and silly nonsense. Thankfully, Square seems to realize that there's a market for this stuff, as they remade the original Nier with developer Toy Logic as a Nier Replicant version 1.22247444. Okay, that's enough. So hopefully one day we'll be able to see a total reimagining of these as well. I think they're diamonds in the rough. The Kaguya to Toy Logic pipeline is real. Considering these games are stuck on older consoles and are in dire need of a remake, I hope one day new Nier fans can experience Yoko Taro at his slightly more unhinged. All right, enough sequels. For now, big franchises, especially back in the day, got all sorts of opportunities to mess up. As silly as I think Resident Evil 6 is, that whole brand hasn't been damaged at all. I mean, Operation Raccoon City can come out. people are like, it's fine. So how about video games taking their first shot? The new IP, or in this case, new IP's dead on arrival. It happens all the time. New IPs popping up, going through the hype machine, being overmarketed, coming out less than stellar, and in the end, disappointing. We've seen it recently with the Callisto Protocol, and even though a lot of people really like that one, its reception was an overwhelming When you got a big debut coming out to reviews like that, it typically nixes the chance of a follow-up. Such is the case with The Last Story. Mistwalker and Hironobu Sakaguchi's very clear attempt at recreating his success with Final Fantasy. I mean, it's even in the name. They made this grand RPG for the Wii that only really made it stateside thanks in part to Operation Rainfall, even outsold the original Xenoblade Chronicles, but being a Wii exclusive and having a weird control scheme has made this one fall really short of expectations. I would love to see Mistwalker try this one again, but Sakaguchi's in mobile game land. Yeah, when is Fantasian coming to not Apple Arcade? I think we've all got personal disappointments, especially from new IPs. I was probably the only person who saw Extinction and thought, oh yeah, this is gonna be dope, but I'll take that badge. I mean, they basically made an Attack on Titan video game with giant orcs, and I won't hate on that, it's just aggressively mid. Kinda like Mighty Number 9, a title that was absolutely demolished by its otherworldly expectations. Back when Kickstarter games were all the rage, Mighty Number 9 was among the first to have a large name attached to it, Keiji Inafune, the creator of Mega Man. A goal of $900,000 was smashed to over $4 million in funding. Early concepts by concept looked good, and it was easy to get excited. Around this time, Capcom was totally dropping the ball with the Blue Bomber, so gamers waited with bated breath. They just probably shouldn't have announced this for every platform ever. By the way, you can apparently still pre-order the 3DS version on Amazon.co.uk. January 2025, huh? Let's go. This story's been told a bunch at this point, but TLDR, Mighty Number 9 wanted to be everything. A game, a franchise, a cartoon show, comic book, anime, live-action movie, even appearing in other video games. Back in Ninja Gaiden Yaiba, you know it. A delay came, then another, and faith in the project started to wane. The budget was truthfully way too low for their aspirations, and what we ended up getting was just okay. Oh, also,
And make the bad guys cry like an anime fan on prom night.
harmless but a dumb, kinda cringy marketing take for sure, especially because the art style of this game is very anime-centric, but those who got mad were probably exactly that.
Then you gotta play this game, dude. It's friggin' cool.
I don't think Mighty Number 9 sucks. I think it's a very middle-of-the-road one of these, and had it been shadow dropped without a Kickstarter, I think people would have been kinder. But due to being one of the largest and loudest cases of crowdfunding in video games, it was put under a microscope where everything was overanalyzed. I don't think it's very good either, but it's hard not to root for the guy that was just trying to create something from scratch to get back at his former employer, even if it had a whole different set of problems. I think I'd actually like to see another shot at Mighty Number 9. I think the dash mechanic has potential to be a lot of fun, and when you're in the zone, it has glimpses of feeling decent. It also only interrupts the action as much as like a PS1 Mega Man X title, so considering we probably only got Mega Man 11 because Mighty Number 9 was a thing, at least it did that. Oh, also, who's still waiting on Red Ash? Hello? Speaking vaguely of Capcom, let's talk about them, specifically in the 7th generation. They had a whole new bag of IPs they were trying to push and weird concepts. It was out with Dino Crisis and Mega Man and in with Remember Me. Yeah, this was not a great era. There was one new IP that they introduced that I actually got really excited for, but similarly to Extinction, it was probably just me. In 2010, we would get Dark Void. A new decade, a new Capcom. The new just happened to be by outsourcing to Western developers. Dark Void was the debut by Airtight Games, who were only around for a few years, but put this out alongside Murdered Soul Suspect. Void was a cool but simple idea. Flying, shooting jetpack guy. It totally fit in with Capcom's resume alongside something like Bionic Commando. It's an awesome concept in a genre that was weirdly missing from gaming at the time. Similarly to Crimson Skies, you would fly around big maps, fight the big fight, and feel like a cool dude while doing it. It just baited us into playing a generic third-person shooter that was trying to be Uncharted. And when I say trying to be, I mean the main character is also voiced by Nolan North.
Pirates.
Is he okay?
Not really. He's dead.
My God.
In Dark Void, you control a dude named Will during World War II who gets sucked into a place called the Void while flying through the Bermuda Triangle. Kind of a funny concept on the classic superstitions at the time, but there you hang out with Nikola Tesla as you blow up aliens and wish you were doing the flying part of the game. After a slow start, there's some neat mechanics. The jetpack allows you to do vertical cover shooting, which I don't think has been replicated. You're able to swap between boosting and flying on a moment's notice, and quickly moving around these maps feels good. The guns all feel similar and are actually kind of useless when compared to your standard melee, which will kill everything in 1 or 2 hits. Who needs a gun when you can run and punch dudes at like 3 times the speed? Even if you die, you'll get greeted with ragdolling, which is always funny. Unfortunately, Dark Void is a game that goes in one ear and out the other. I think it's strong out of the gate, but then decides to spend a large percentage of its playtime being the most safe cover shooter, and that's the worst thing they could have done. People knocked it back in the day for not having multiplayer, which I don't think matters too much. It needed more flying time. Aerial dogfights can be exciting, but instead we take that away for Gears of War clone number 348. A huge shame. Weirdly, there was a prequel game that came out on the exact same day, and it might actually be better. Dark Void Zero came out on PC and DSiWare for a $5, and it was a demake of the concept, looking like one of the best NES games you ever played. They even marketed it as a lost arcade title from the 80s, using similar technology to the Punch-Out arcade cabinet. It's a cute tongue-in-cheek thing. Zero's nothing crazy or over the top, but it definitely showed that guy with a jetpack and guns is a 10 out of 10 video game idea that should be revisited. Dark Void disappointed because it wasn't quite the thing on the cover, and I think you could totally make this work in 2023. You just gotta take a copy of this, smash it together with a copy of Anthem, and you got yourself like half a video game. Basically, I just want like a proper Iron Man sim who's also voiced by Nolan North in the Avengers game, so yeah, let's cook up some disappointment. I think Dark Void was a golden concept. I mean, I think every game in this video was a fantastic idea. That's why they're disappointing in the first place. If you make a generic military shooty man game where he shoots other bald generic military shooty men, then expectations are kind of just gonna be a little lower, but if you make, say, a multiplayer Sonic racing game, then maybe you might get excited. Surely I wasn't the only one who wanted Sonic R to be good. An on-foot racer with one of the most soundtracks of all time? Truly, we're all living in the city. You told me as a kid that Sonic the Hedgehog and friends are gonna be racing against each other in a 3D environment, I get excited. I'm that simple. It's just also one of the worst things Sega's ever been a part of. Besides Sonic Freeriders, you'd think giving the Blue Blur a racer would be easy, but history has proved otherwise. You received no Chaos Emeralds. Or remakes, try again. I also think Battleborn could have been something special. There's a lot of love in the characters, the world, and the Saturday morning cartoon vibe that they created, but this thing got unfairly compared to Overwatch when they weren't really similar in the first place. It was way more of a Smite than anything, and as an ex-Dota 2 addict, it was decent stuff. Not great, but not the reputation it had. I ended up playing the entire campaign fully co-op the week before it shut down, and was impressed with some of the concepts, but it really needed to like flick itself over to a free-to-play model. I have no idea why 2K or Gearbox didn't make that happen, but that's a crime. Hashtag bring back Battleborn, am I right? We gotta get that Rule 34 subreddit going again. However, if there's one golden concept that I think fell directly on its face, it was SimCity 2013. It's been long enough, we can talk about this, right? SimCity 2013 is one of those games that should have been a landmark release, but failed very loudly. Maxis and SimCity have been around since the 80s and are responsible for some of the most successful PC games of all time. While I got my start with the Super Nintendo version developed by Nintendo, SimCity and city builders in general became one of my favorite genres to sink time into. If I needed to zone out for a bit or wanted to play something not too heavy as a teen, SimCity 4 was great. The Sims and other spin-offs like Herbs took center stage in the mid-2000s, so when a proper SimCity was announced for 2013, the hype was there. It was a reboot, it was the first in a decade, and it was gorgeous. You could zoom down into your town in a way that the previous installments couldn't do and see details way higher than the past. You didn't even need SimCopter. They just made it an online-only release, one with one of the worst server launches in video game history. For weeks, there were networking issues causing people to be unable to play. If you got disconnected mid-game, you'd lose progress. That and a lot of the economical aspects were downplayed compared to previous entries. So you may be asking, why was this a golden concept? It's simple, multiplayer. SimCity 2013's whole thing and why it was online only was because you joined neighborhoods with other players. You created towns with specializations that would assist each other. I could make a gambling heavy city and see people from across the lake from your stinky city coming in to spend their hard-earned cash in mine. Cooperative city building still hasn't been capitalized on, even with this thing's spiritual successor, City Skylines. Granted, the multiplayer did end up being a huge reason that SimCity 2013 failed, why Maxis Emeryville shuttered their doors, and why we haven't seen the series in over a decade. But I think now's been long enough for SimCity to try and make a comeback. Considering Maxis had massive layoffs and is still in the Sims dimension all these years later, it's probably not likely, but I would love for EA to revisit the specific concept for a game. As long as I can still send massive amounts of garbage to my friend's town, that's all that matters. Which, by the way, Ethan, I'm sorry for ruining the economy in Chadsburg. Gotta do its best for Cringetopia. Anyways, I got one more to talk about today, and I wanted to bring up a licensed game that I was really excited for as a kid. I thought it was gonna be the coolest thing ever, and it's actually also by EA, which I did not plan. It wasn't just a golden concept, it was a new, fresh take on something that already existed. Around the time that the Ultimates were popular, Marvel wanted to be seen as a slightly edgier product in some regards, which is how we got Marvel Nemesis Rise of the Imperfects. And if you played this, you know. I mean, it's a good recipe. One part Power Stone and Super Smash Brothers, another part cool Marvel heroes with a freaky alien force that takes over the good guys and makes them bad. It's got a fun cast who are more street level like Venom, Storm, Captain America, and my boy Daredevil. Yeah, thankfully not Affleck Daredevil, although this thing reeks of 2005. All of the characters' outfits are something else. You got Elektra with the thong coming out above her pants, Wolverine's got a baggy pair of jeans and looks like the protagonist of a Grand Theft Auto clone. I think this tie-in comic cover really says it all. Give me Mohawk Storm over this any day. Even so, the idea of a 3D arena brawler with Marvel characters is a great idea. You have your standard 2-player fighting game as well as a story mode that gives us slight platforming and levels to explore. Each of the heroes has their own abilities. Wolverine can climb walls, Daredevil and Spider-Man can swing from the skies. The levels are all extremely basic, a lot less than what you would probably expect from a story mode, though there's nothing quite like loading into a fight and doing this. Yeah, ringouts work in single player too, or sometimes the AI will decide it's just time to end it all. Oh my god, Daredevil's dead. Oh, no, he's back. Never mind. I think the biggest problem with Marvel Nemesis is that all of the fighting game systems are very basic, non-competitive, and just not as interesting as things that have come before it. While totally unfair, Marvel and fighting games have a lot of competition in the quality sector, so something like this is radically under par. Although it is bizarre that they have fatality-like finishers where you can watch Spider-Man burn to a crisp. Oh no, Pete.
I'm going to die.
It seems like EA was kind of hoping that this would take off because the Imperfects and other original characters were considered canon within the Marvel multiverse, but have only been seen here and in the tie-in comic. The story mode's really hard too. The AI is bonkers. At a certain point they get way too difficult and are just spamming projectiles. Not like Comic Zone hard, but close. Turns out the best way to win some of these fights is to be a total coward and throw cars from off screen. Riveting gameplay. I think that there's some fun to be had here, especially if you have a few friends that just love themselves some Marvel superheroes. It just starts and stops with that, as there's hardly any depth to put this over something like Soul Calibur 3, Dead or Alive 4, or Tekken 5, which all came out that same year. Never minding, you could just boot up Marvel vs. Capcom 2, a much better game. The main thing here was 3D arena fighting, but it just didn't do that well. The story is okay, but a remake of that isn't what interests me. It's the party fighter, especially a superhero one. It has been a long time since we've gotten a Marvel mishmash fighter like this. The early 2000s and 90s had random stuff like this, and X-Men Mutant Academy showing us what all these characters can do, and I kinda miss it. Wolverine cargo jeans and all. Look, all I'm saying is take Marvel Nemesis, take, I don't know, CyberConnect 2. You see what I'm getting at here? Bada bing, bada boom, $100 million. Weirdly, Marvel and EA actually announced that they were in the process of making multiple titles, which could mean any number of things, Games, the developers Motive Studio, who did the Dead Space remake and Star Wars Squadron. There's an alleged Iron Man thing too, but my crackpot conspiracy theory is that we're going back, baby. They even just recently brought back the Ultimates in the comic books, opening the gate for weird multiverse shenanigans, and literally no one cares about this but me, but hopefully the end result is all of society readopting mid-2000s fashion. Licensed superhero games are playing it straight these days, but I would love to see things get a little wacky. Or maybe I just want a new Power Stone. You decide. So there you have it, a bunch of disappointing games that I think deserve a remake, or in some cases, a total reimagining. It's not every day I get to talk about SimCity 2013, which I apparently put 20 hours into, but we took our shot. In the spirit of the topic, what's a video game that disappointed you that you'd like to see get a remake? The comments are gonna be wildly varying, because what's disappointing to somebody might also be like the best thing ever to somebody else, so I'm very excited to read the comments here. Someone last week said that they mow their lawn while listening to my videos, which is like my new favorite comment ever. If y'all like today's video, check out today's sponsor, consider becoming a YouTube member, check out the Patreon, buy a t-shirt over on the Pixel Empire, like, subscribe, ring the bell. There's too many things. There's absolutely too many things. All of y'all's support goes back into the channel, and as y'all can see, we've been working real hard over here. Both of my editors, Portly and Joshy, have been doing an excellent job, so give them some love on Twitter, YouTube, or whatever. Just be nice. Anyways, I've been Austin, and I'm gonna get schmoovin' because June has way too many video games that need to be played. Catch me next time, where hopefully I'll look a little less tired. Or, you know, it'll be worse. Thank you so much for watching. Special Patreon shout out to Aaron Kwolek, Blackfoot Ferret, Blake Thomas, Cheeks, Chris Shelton, Doug Prince, DX Buster, David Molnar, Elijah, GM Pinks, Hey Quiggles, Idlewise, Jay Roos, Jacoby Fitzpatrick, Kevin Zanowski, Karen Arter, Nick Irving, Ryan Talbert, and Vox. Thank you all so much for your generous support. Happy June, everybody. Happy video games and happy Pride. That's 3 videos in a 3-week period, by the way, which means I am very tired, but I hope you guys like what we've been putting out. Probably gonna go disappear into the Diablo crevasses now. And maybe some Street Fighter, maybe a little Final Fantasy, y'all know how it is. I have a lot more stuff coming up on the horizon as well. We're gonna be doing another deep dive soon, another 100% video, so I hope you guys are ready for that. As usual, thanks for watching, thanks for supporting the channel, and you know, make sure to brush your tongue. It's stinky back there. Okay, love you, bye.